this is the most important thing, and this will make you a hockey player, is how can I help my team? And if you can get your mindset about how can I help my team and get your eyes off yourself a little bit, then you become valuable no matter what.
Just found that out, eh? It's been like 4 years. You've been using the same thing for 4 years, and
it's mechanical. I don't do mechanical.
Just electrical. Or you dig holes. You dig holes now.
Yeah, did some plumbing.
You're like a plumber, right? Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say to start? I had something to start. I don't remember my first thing, but my second thing was I went to Jiu-Jitsu last night, and it was a gi class. So people that don't know gi versus no gi, you wear the robe thing with the belt, and then no gi, you just wear your tights, and you're wrestling around with other guys. So first of all, I'm not like a jiu-jitsu guy. Okay, like I'm a hobbyist, as they say. I'm not hardcore. So I go to a class last night, and there's a kid sitting next to me, and I don't know how old he is. I can't tell, but maybe he could be like just out of high school or something, assuming he's that age. And he's a white belt, so he's like relatively new. And you can just tell, like, because I remember when I was new, it's so uncomfortable being there when you're new. It's like the most uncomfortable thing ever. You're so insecure. You don't feel like you know how to do anything, whatever. So I said
killers in there.
Yeah, and everyone's a murderer. So I just said hi, like when I sat down, asked his name, like how long he's been training, whatever. He said about 6 months. I'm like, okay, so you've gotten through like some of the uncomfortable already. But maybe this is just my mindset. When I'm going into situations like that, I always am thinking about kind of like how the other person is feeling about their situation when they're in this environment trying to learn something. And the reason I'm starting with this is because I bring that into my coaching as much as I can. And sometimes you get caught up. Like sometimes you get caught up in heat of the moment, and you get a little more emotional, and I'll be a little bit more of a prick about certain things, whatever. But generally I try to adopt that mindset towards whoever. And at jiu-jitsu, I'm by no means the expert. Like I'm not very good, but I've been going longer than this guy, like a substantial amount longer than this guy. So I'm thinking in my mind, like, how can I make this class most beneficial for this guy as training partners? Because when we're doing our drilling and stuff like that, you can be a good partner or you can be a bad partner. Like there's ways to do both. And so my first thing is always just like make sure the other person feels comfortable to explore the options of what they're supposed to do with certain moves. And the parallel to hockey would be to certain skills or whatever when you're trying to learn, and not make them feel judged or more insecure than they need to be. So we started off as a person I don't know. It's my first time ever training with him. And, after 2 or 3 drills in, I can start to see him like he's like relaxing a little bit. Like he's starting to feel like he's a little more comfortable, and he's okay to try things and explore doing things and figure out, where his body should be and all that stuff. And so my point of this, by the end of the class, he says to me after we did our first like live roll after we're done drilling, and he was just like so thankful about the class. He stood up and he was like, man, like, thanks so much for that class. Like that. And it wasn't like it was 2 seconds that he took to say that, but I could just see in his face, like, I enjoyed this felt good. And I can walk away from that feeling like he's going to be in a better position going into the next class now. So that was like a cool example for me in real time, as I was a student in that situation, helping like another student that's learning and is a beginner like me feel a little bit better about their practice going into that. So I guess my point of that is I was reflecting on that on the way home, and just like I try to do that as much as I can when I'm coaching. And I think for parents, you could do the same kind of thing where it's like you can be constructive, you can help, you can support and all that stuff without being like a dick, more or less, right? Like you don't need to have that, super, what you always say, eyes crossed, nose crossed, ears crossed type of coaching style. So I wanted to start with that because I thought that was a cool situation that literally just happened to me last night. We're interacting with some of the kids that I go to jiu-jitsu with, and it's like kind of it's the same thing, right? That's just kind of cool. Whether you're at school, you're playing a sport, you're doing whatever, it's kind of just like everything's all kind of the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So the opposite of that would be when he came, you were partnering with him, and you just knock the shit out of him and don't give him a chance and he doesn't learn anything, where you made it a situation where, oh, if you did this, try this, or like you were actually communicating with him and stuff, and feel, yeah, it makes it a lot better. The guards down, and you like, so like from a coaching perspective, I think it's very important too. Like, well, actually, I just talked about that in the leadership class yesterday, how there needs to be like from the player's perspective, like, don't look at the coaches, like, especially here, don't look at us like it's us against you. We're in this together. And if you understand that, like, because that's what a team is, right? So if you're in this together, then our job is to make the team better, and my job as a coach is to make you better, and your job as a player to make me a better coach. And if we do that together and we have a partnership in winning games or developing, then it's a lot easier than just barking.
Well, and I jumped the gun. Did you have anything you want to start with? Because I jumped the gun a little
No,
bit.
I'm good. I'm good.
So kind of extending on that, because this is gonna like segue right into what I want to kind of talk about today. So what I've noticed is, if I use that example, my attitude going into that training session where I'm sitting next to a kid that, first of all, like when you're training, at least with jiu-jitsu, it's nice to go with someone that's kind of your size, right? If you go with somebody that's like way smaller or way bigger, then you run into like some challenges,
Obviously.
just with like proportions and how you can execute moves, whatever. So I was like, this kid was about like my height ish, but super thin. And he's a beginner, right? So I've been there like almost 3 years, and he was about 6 months, right? So I could look at that situation and I could go into it with an attitude like, oh my God, like I got paired up with this kid today just because of where I decided to sit on the mat. And now I'm going to have like a poopy pants attitude, and, maybe treat this kid like less than, and, I'm way better than you, and I'm too good to be with you, and like all that stuff. And it reminded me of, in when you're playing in hockey or whatever, when you're working out, how much people, kids, parents, when they're looking at who their kids are training with, how much they put value on being with kids that are better than them or the same as them, older or whatever. And like I remember this when I was working out too. I never cared ever who was in the gym with me at all, because if I have a kid that doesn't know how to do anything, it doesn't affect what I'm doing. It doesn't affect what I'm doing at all. If I'm working on from a skills perspective or a strength perspective or whatever drills I'm doing in the gym, like what does it matter who's with me? Now you can make the argument of, well, if you play with better kids, then, you get better. Well, like the science of that actually is not true. It's like you play with better kids some of the time, and that's good. But if you play with better kids all of the time, it's actually super discouraging and not good for you. Right. And they've shown that with different experiments. Like if you pair up, I think the one experiment they did with rats, it's like if you have a small rat and a big rat and you have them play together all the time, if the big rat doesn't let the small rat win ever, then the small rat doesn't want to play anymore. Like that's what happens. So you can't constantly be with people that are better, whatever. And so
well, it's also from a training perspective, mentally, you have to have some wins, and you have to get some, and then you have some challenge. So in George St. Pierre's book, he talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
About how, like the
great book. Say that. Do you remember the name of the book?
GSP,
Way of the Fight.
The Way of the Fight.
Yeah, that's
one
a great
of the
book.
best books.
Yeah,
you wouldn't think. Huh?
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, he's great.
But in that book, it's so awesome because, what's his Zahibi? Faraz Zahibi is one of his coaches. Danaher is one of his coaches. Phil Nurse is one of his coaches. But in his training regime, there's a time and a place for, like, obviously there's all the different components of mixed martial arts. So, you're going to have one or two that you're really good at, and other ones where you have to work harder and stuff. But like, let's say boxing, for example, you get in your boxing rounds, if you're always boxing someone better than you, then like it's good at times because they're picking you apart, or you're learning stuff at a high level, but then you need to win some of these fights as well. So that's why you want to practice maybe with someone that's a little bit less than you, so that you can, have some wins and some confidence and keep building your confidence that way.
And that's kind of my point. You can look at the people that are around you, and that can kind of change your attitude when you're going into whatever the training thing is that you're doing. But you want to make sure that whoever it is, if it's somebody better, if it's somebody the same, if it's somebody worse, you identify that there's value across that whole spectrum. So that was another, again, that was an example for me yesterday where it was great because I'm better than this guy, and that gives me an opportunity to really work on things that I want to work on, and be fairly confident I'll be able to execute them. So like one thing that I want to do is make sure that I can do the same moves on both sides, right? So if I'm doing something to my left versus something to my right, having that symmetry, and that's something I'm not great at generally because you have your favored side. But when it's a guy that I know I'm a little bit better than, then I'm more confident to take the risk going to my worst side, because if I make a mistake, it's more likely I'll be able to recover against somebody that's not quite as good as me. And so like that's super valuable to be able to do that in confidence, you know? So I think it's just I guess a reminder for kids that are going through that that type of situation where you're matched up with different kids, that you can get it can change how you're thinking about a certain situation. Now the parallel where it draws into kind of what I want to talk about today is, what if your line mates are those players, right? What if your line mates are the guys that are maybe what you think not as good, or you're playing with like the bottom end of the team, or you're playing with the top end of the team, or whatever, and how that can shape your mindset. I think so. Today, I kind of want to get into that, like finding your spot on the team. But maybe I'll throw to you to start off with that, just like that. What would you say to players kind of going through that situation? You're lined up with a guy that's maybe you think not so good versus a guy that is much better on your own like team within your lineup.
Yeah, well, you look at Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, all these guys, they've always played with people that were lesser than them, and it didn't stop them being as good as they can be. So that's number one. Like you have to just play your game. I mean, you can't get overly frustrated with, because what will happen if you're playing with guys that are less skilled, let's say that's this issue, you might move them the puck and they might bobble it and the play doesn't come back on a give and go. You might make a play and they do handle the puck, but they don't have the vision or the skill to make a smart play or read the game. It's like you just have to figure it out. That's the bottom line. It is what it is. Don't get overly frustrated. It's a compliment to you, I guess, if you're that much better than people, but you just have to make them better. And I was in those situations when I was a kid, right? To play with, I remember I said this on a podcast a long time ago, but I remember it was Mr. Rose was coaching me, and there's a kid on our team. There was the last couple games of the year, hadn't had a goal all year, and my sole purpose, but my sole mission that last couple games was if I was on the ice with him to get him a goal. So that's how I set my mind up. Was I'd give up an opportunity, hang on the puck, and look for him. His name was Grant, of course. Like he wouldn't be called Eric or anything. Anyways, his name was Grant. Bad, not a great hockey player. And then I got him. I don't know if he got two, but I got him his first goal. And that was like, so there's different ways to raise your levels, right? Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of outline the scenario that I'm currently.
Unbelievable. Just drinking a coffee. That's all I was trying to do is drink a coffee, right? Freaking need a shower now.
Did it get in your eyes?
Everywhere. Eyes, nips. Jeez.
So I'm going to outline the current scenario that I'm in. And then I want to talk about it more from like the player family perspective, not from the coach perspective, but I'm going to outline it from my perspective because I'm the one going through it. So with my team right now, like the depth on my team is wild. Okay. So, and not every team is like this. So I'm in a fortunate situation where my team is very good. We're very skilled. We're very deep. We have a lot of good players that can do a lot of things. Big, tough, like skilled, like so. It's very fun to coach, in a sense. And in another sense, it's very challenging to coach because I only have so much ice time. I only have so many reps I can give guys in certain situations. Everybody wants power play. Everybody wants penalty kill. Everybody wants to be a captain. Everybody wants to play the big minutes. Everybody wants to be on the ice all the time. And a lot of them deserve that, right? A lot of them deserve that. So having to balance making sure there's like a relatively even distribution because all of them do deserve it. And then when games get tight and I go with my guys that are going, how to manage, guys that on any other team might be a top end player, but on this team, there's a lot of top end players. So as a coach, trying to, figure that part of it out where everybody feels like they're still getting adequate ice time and they're still getting opportunities and all that stuff. while also recognizing that not everybody can go at the same time. That's like a challenge that I'm having. So I had a conversation with my team over the weekend. We went 3-0 this weekend, and we'd be the equivalent of like number 7 or like number 5 in Ontario or something like that, which is really nice and that's fun. And you would think I want to be on that team, right? But for a lot of guys, when things get down to crunch time and there's games that are close, I go with who's going that game, right? If certain guys are going, I'm going with those guys. So I was saying to my group, because of that reality that the team's very deep, it's not going to be your time every weekend. You know, you might not be the guy I pick every weekend. And it's not necessarily because you're not playing well. You know, it's not like a punishment. It's not that you don't necessarily deserve to play. It's just somebody else maybe deserves a little bit more. Somebody else is going a little bit more. Someone else is executing a little bit more today, like this weekend or whatever. So I was kind of reminding them, like, you guys want to play in a good team. That's what everybody asks. They want to be on a team that's good. But now that you're on a team that's good, this is the challenge, right? This is the challenge that you have to now deal with. And mentally, how do you deal with that? So I was thinking about that. And the reason I said that to the players is because I was putting myself in their shoes. You know, if I got a guy that feels like he's on the third line, but on any other team, he'd be on the first line, then how do I make sure that kid still feels like he's taken care of and that kind of stuff? So kind of starting from that, I kind of want to go into the dynamics of, you know, maybe a team like that, or a team where maybe it's not so great of a team and you're in that situation, and how do you establish where you should be within that team? So let's start it with just, again, general thoughts kind of on that topic. Like, where does your mind go when I start talking about that kind of stuff? And then I'll start to direct you as we keep going.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess that when you're playing on a really good team in youth hockey, like we can consider U18 youth hockey still. Playing a really good team and you're fighting to get ice is that's what hockey will be like for the rest of your life. So that's actually better than, not necessarily better in this situation. That's what you need to learn from it. If you play at any higher level than U18, like junior, whatever, or pro or whatever, that's your life. It's you're competing for jobs every single day. So that's a good thing. So, you know, like, no player, no kid wants to come out and feel like they're not, you know, top dog, but it's reality. So you have to fight for spots. And I think it's healthy as long as your mind's right. And ironically enough, yesterday when I was doing the leadership classes with the kids, I talked about all this stuff. I didn't know you were talking about this today. Because I was talking about them about the coach relationship and all that kind of stuff, and like earning, all that kind of stuff. So I think number one is that if you're in a competitive environment where you're fighting for ice, I think it's healthy because that's going to be your life if you choose this as hockey. So number one, that's that. Now it's your attitude going into it. Understanding how can this is the most important thing, and this will make you a hockey player, is how can I help my team? And if you can get your mindset about how can I help my team and get your eyes off yourself a little bit, then you become valuable no matter what. So then, you know, when it comes down to it, you're going to make decisions, game management decisions, unselfish plays to help your team win. And that usually gets recognized by a coach. And that's one way to look at it. When you have people thinking team, then I think you get different opportunities because coaches like you, teammates like you, right?
Yeah. So I want to kind of get more specific about it. So if we can do this separately or you can answer it together however you want, but I want to kind of talk about it from the player angle and then something for the parents and coaches and how to like help support this or communicate or whatever. So if you're the player, how do you figure out what the value is that you bring to the team? So like if I want to, so like I make a team, let's say I'm a forward, there's 12 forwards on my team or 9 forwards or 10 forwards, whatever it is. And everybody can kind of tell like about where I'm at, you know, like who are the best guys, who are not the best guys, and where exactly do I kind of slot in? But like, how do you establish a lot of kids will do that and not know what metric they're measuring on, right? Normally it would just be who gets more points. Like whoever gets the most points, those are the best guys. The guys that don't get a lot of points are the worst guys, because that's a good proxy usually for who's at what level. But how can you tell, like, what can I do to contribute with this team? Like, what is the value that I bring? How do you figure that out for yourself as a player? And then how can the parents and the coach help the kids to find that answer.
Okay, so I think first of all, I think a lot of times we spend too much time trying to figure out what role we play. Like you need to understand some sort of role. But I think a lot of the times we try to figure out, okay, I'm this and I got to play like that. But sometimes you never know, right? Sometimes you get on a line like let's take Zach Hyman. I mean, he's been putting up a lot, some crazy numbers in Edmonton. Is it because of McDavid, or is it because it's the way he plays with McDavid, right? But if he was in another team, he might have never got that opportunity. He would be a third or fourth line. Like I don't know what he is, but he probably wouldn't be a 50-goal scorer, right? So you don't know what you're going to be. So like the thing is do what you do, like play free, do what you do. If you're a skater or if you're a hitter, if you're a passer, if you're a D guy, whatever it is that you do what you do really, really well. Work your ass off. Take care of both ends of the ice, best that you can. So,
Okay, so sorry, just pause. Yeah. So, because this is something that happens a lot, is a player thinks they know what they are,
yep,
but they don't. And this to me, the example of this is like you're the one I started seeing this from when you were helping people prepare for their interviews with the OHL interviews or whatever, and ask who do you feel like you play like, and what are the answers? Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, whatever, Cale Makar, and you're sitting there like, okay, no. So if you think, okay, yeah, I'm a good skater, I'm a playmaker, I'm a whatever, but you're not. You're actually not though. So how or you are a little, but you're actually a little bit better at this thing. So how can you maybe it's a parent coach thing for the kid, or even for a kid, like what questions can you ask? How can you dig into figuring out actually what you are? When you say do what you do well or do what you do, like how do I actually know that this is the thing? How do I measure myself against the other teammates that I have or whatever?
Yeah. I'd still go back to that. Do what you are. Do what you do. If you think you're a goal scorer, go. If that's what you think you are, like why would if you playing for me and you take the puck and you try to go end to end, right? Because you're a goal scorer and every time you get the puck, you're shooting. If that's what you do, go do it 100%. But at some point, a parent, if you're doing it from a parent side, is you can maybe point that out. It's like you're not using your players very much, are you? Or you're trying going that way, but you like going downhill, but you don't like coming back. Like maybe you got to address that from a coach. How long is it going to take for a coach to address it? Like that, you know what I mean? So do what you do, and then your coach looks at it and says, okay, like you need to distribute the puck or whatever, or the kid finds out because the levels, the level that he's at is not. He thought he was at a higher level, so now it's not going in and all that kind of stuff. So between the coach and him, I'm sure you can come up to some conclusion to say like what you thought you were isn't right. So I mean, that would be the first thing. So do what you do. And then if you're not having success, I think hopefully you as a player are going to say, okay, I got to do something differently. And you might not as a player, but the coach, that's where a coach needs to say, okay, like I'm using that example of skating down the ice. You think you're a goal scorer, but you haven't scored in a few games and everything you're doing is failing or whatever, it's not working out. That's our coach's job now to address it. And then that's a conversation to kind of identify what you have. So then the next phase I would look at, if I was coaching this player, I'd look at it and say, so what you're doing well in this situation is you're getting the puck up the ice. Where you're running into shape or running into bad shape is maybe you're shooting because you're not getting to net. Maybe you're shooting from way out wide. It's not a goal scoring area, or you're giving up 2-3 passes for give and goes and to make plays. And you're not making your teammates better. So that'd be the next phase. Like, how do we use our teammates and how do we incorporate other people? And so for example, like if you play on a line in junior hockey with, I'm not going to talk about junior. If you play with Connor McDavid, if you play, not that anyone does, but if you play with the best players in the world, right? You know what amazes me? Actually, now that we're talking about this, so when I watch a hockey game, OHL, whatever, and you see who's on the ice, and you think that you should be the one, like let's say a power play, you think you should be the one trying to shoot a shot from the point with no traffic and in a straight line, and you're sitting there going, but he got drafted to the NHL. He's 2 years old in the NHL, and you sit there and you go, wow. Someone's not telling him, or they're telling him he's not listening, or them. You know what I mean? You see that a lot. So you got to know who you're with, and I think it's a skill. And I can go into this in a minute, but it's a skill to realize, if I'm playing with a centerman that's much faster than me, what's a good idea is when I get the puck off the wall, get him the puck, and then do a secondary job, or maybe it's the primary job of go getting him the puck, and then it's not having the ego of I want to be the guy with the points. But anyways, you got to look at your line mates and say, how does this work? How does it work? So maybe my primary, what I thought was my primary skill, it might not be my primary skill, or I can use it in a different way. It makes sense or no?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
So maybe like getting it a little more specific or tightening it up a little bit. So for the players, I mean, basically it would come down to like self-awareness more or less. So if you could, in like a brief way of explaining it, if I'm a kid, let's say I have no parents that are helping me and I have no coach that's giving me any reasonable feedback, what are some questions I could ask myself, or a way that I could analyze my situation to figure out where do I fit with these line mates, or where do I fit with this team? Like, what are some ways that I can find out, you know, if I'm playing with this guy, do I need to do this, or like what are the questions that I should ask in that situation if I'm looking at what's around me, if I don't have any help?
I don't know, man. Like that's a tough question because I like if you don't have help, like that would be. Is it being extreme? Like if you don't have a coach that gives, yeah. Well, then you have to be introspect. Like this is where hockey players really want to. You either have to figure it out and you have to, learn the game, like you have to be very interested in learning it and really give a shit about your career or your hockey itself. So like, is it video? Might be video. Might be just talking to other players. Like I'm not really sure what else you're gonna do. Like you have to learn on your own, right? Yeah, that's my opinion. Go somewhere where you can find it.
Yeah. So I think I guess what I would be getting at is you need to be able to, like you said, kind of ask yourself questions to analyze the guys around you and what they're good at, to figure out where you can plug in. But then it takes being actually honest, which is hard.
100%.
You know?
But this is the difference, though, right? Like this is the thing with hockey. But and you got to. As we were talking about this, I say this all the time to you guys. It's like I didn't get coached. Like I really didn't get coached. Hockey to me was something that we played for fun and we learned as you went. And then, I've showed things that I learned on my own playing in the OHL because coaches didn't really coach. You know what I mean? So that's where a lot of guys learned is you had to do it on your own. So it's like you can't always get coached everything as well, right? You have to figure some shit out, and that's what I mean. Go play your game, and you'll figure some stuff out pretty quickly, really.
So now you kind of brushed on something, so I want to kind of focus on that part of it now. When you're talking about almost like you're almost kind of talking about adapting your role too, to where adapting your role based on who you're with. So like, for example, if you're with a shooter, then maybe you're not the shooter for that line. Not that you can't ever shoot, but just maybe somebody else you should be looking at being more of a distributor. If you got nobody on your team that wants, or nobody on your line that wants to be, F1 in to forecheck, maybe you're the guy that, takes that on as an identity. So assuming, like, I'm thinking about this again for my guys. Like, let's say you were one of the better players on your team all the way up, and now you get to a team or you go up to junior or whatever, and now you're like in the middle. So your whole identity, and this happens to a lot of guys that maybe they got drafted to the OHL and made the OHL as their first, second round picks, and they figure out, oh, like I'm actually not the best guy now, and maybe that's the first time that they've been in that situation. So maybe like two scenarios: you're a mid-pack player on a really good team, or you're a higher end player on a weaker team. So in those two scenarios, if you use those two just as examples, what's kind of your mindset from like the player perspective if you're the player in each of those situations? So start with, I'm what I thought was maybe a top end player, and now I find myself to be in the mix. Like, what's kind of your mindset as a player now in that situation to make sure you're still effective or reestablishing what you are?
Yeah. So if you're bottom line is this: you want to be, if you have your dreams, your goals, your what you want to be for yourself, that's fine. So if you get into a situation, which it happens to most people, you get to the OHL, like the high levels of hockey, AAA, midget, whatever, you play it. There's a lot of good hockey players, man, and people evolve and get better. So like, first of all, that's why I'm a big believer and a teacher and a reminder that a growth mindset's really important. Grow your brain, learn the game, learn the different aspects of the game, so that you can adapt to certain things, and you probably be more self aware. You'd be more aware that this is a chance that it happened. But the bottom line is, again, go play your game. Number one, if you're playing your game and you're in the middle of the pack, that's probably okay. Now, the goal is to get yourself, not to be a bucket of vanilla, and there's a few ways you can do it, right? Guys that maybe it means you're going to increase your hitting more. That's a good idea. Maybe it's your backtracking and your D zone. It's like you're such a hard worker in your D zone that pucks get out a little bit more. I mean, those don't sound like the biggest compliments for a player, but they're actually huge, because it takes the vanilla out of your game. You start throwing, one good hit a period, every period extra, you get a little more attention. If you throw 2, 3, then without going out of position, if you drive the net and do those little things that are the things without the puck, if you do those maybe just a small percentage more or with more intention, those are things that will elevate your game, because it's funny how that works, right? When you really drive the net and hang around the net as a forward, let's say, like, good things tend to happen. Finishing hits, good things tend to happen. A defenseman that's, you can call them hard to find sometimes, because they don't show up in a game big time, as a defenseman that's quiet, like just gets the pucks out and stuff. But if you're boxing guys out and you just have that attention of knocking a puck away, like, you get better automatically. So you can make yourself more valuable. And then, a lot of people don't really understand this, is do things to make your team better. Like, have that team mentality, like truly understand what winning is and making other people better. Because one of the things that you see people in a shitty diaper sometimes because they're not the star like they used to be. But guys, man, like, I'll say it with, like, if you're on, let's just say if in the NHL, junior, whatever, if you're with one of the better players in the league, and you happen to be playing with them, or they're on your team, it's like they do what they do. Like, Cale Makar is Cale Makar. Like, if his partner or the guy behind him want to be him, it's like, it's not going to happen. So how can I enhance the team? Cale Makar is going to get himself 100 points this year, probably, right? He's going to skate and he's going to dazzle people, and people are going to talk about him all the time. And if you get butthurt about him getting recognition or him getting more points, like, most people aren't going to be him. So how can I help my team be better? It's about winning. It's about being a team guy. We can't have everybody like Cale Makar or name the player, right? So bring your game up. So Cale Makar, and I don't watch him enough to get to say this, but does he throw the body around enough? Or does he throw the body around? I think he does a little bit, but is he hard to play against? So maybe the next phase is you got this guy on the ice, and then when I come on the ice or as a partner with him, I'm the guy that you're going to go through the lumber every single time, and you feel it, and you make room for Cale Makar. So that's how you become a better player with him. Make room, give him the puck, find a way to get him the puck is only going to help your team. So that mindset takes a little bit of vanilla out of your game.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about, just as you're talking, I'm running through my team. I got a crop of Sudbury boys on the team this year, and I didn't know these kids at all, right? And I'm going to use these guys as an example, because kind of for that reason, where they're jumping into a situation that is totally unknown. A lot of the other guys had played together a little bit before. They kind of know where they stack up, but these guys wouldn't really know necessarily. Maybe they've crossed over in tournaments and have seen some of the guys, but they haven't been in this realm before. And like, these guys, man, like, I've been so impressed with how they've come in and basically done exactly what you just were talking about. It's like they came in and they play the way that they play. They have like certain things that are good about their game, but then they have found like a little bit of a niche role within our group, whether they could explain it or not. Like, if I had them sitting here and asking them, like, what little niche things do you think you have that you bring to the team that are good? I don't know that they would be able to like articulate it to me, but I see it, right? I see the things that they're doing. So they're jumping into an unknown situation. All of them higher end players on their previous team, jumping into a team that's, I think, much better than the team that they were on last year. And they have to reestablish where they stack up. And all of them are doing things a little bit different. They didn't come in and all of them try to be the exact same player. They have certain crossover attributes, but they're very distinct in how they work on the ice. And all of them have been so valuable in the way that they contribute to the team because they have like little differences that make them valuable. That's what I get to see as the coach. That's what I'm seeing. They're not coming in and all being the same guy. They're finding little ways to stick out. And so they get the love in the situations that I need that, And so that's what makes them super valuable with my team,
Well, so that's because you answered the question, right? So you like just to back that up, these kids came to a team that they had knew nothing about, or not knew nothing about. Came to a team where they have no idea where they stand. Probably thought they're going to be the best guys, or maybe they hope whatever. That doesn't matter. But they came in with a blank slate, just like anybody going on a team, right? You start from zero, or you get drafted, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. There you go. So what you do is you go back to what I said. You play your game. You just go play. Then you kind of figure things out, right? Then if you figure out, okay, this guy's better than me, or I don't know, I think I'm better than him, or whatever. What are you going to do to compete for that job? And you add something to your game. Maybe it's a forecheck, a back check, more shooting, whatever it is, making people better, which all those guys have done with your team. They've made the team better and made the people around them better. But the next most important thing is to understand that if you do something, like it doesn't have to happen today, but why you want to make yourself not a bucket of vanilla, and maybe you are better than the other person, and you're just not getting the chance yet. Well, what happens when, and this is where you can see maybe other opportunities open up, is what happens if you are a third, fourth line guy, as you said, blending in, and you're finishing your hits or something, and like consistently you're doing that, and all of a sudden one of your top line mates, one of the players on the top lines gets injured, gets suspended, or whatever. Someone has to move up. And if you've been doing something to move up, and then all of a sudden you think, I know I am a goal scorer, but on this team you haven't had that, or maybe the connections weren't right. At some point, things change. So now maybe you're playing with a guy and everything just kind of clicks, and the next thing you're doing the same thing, and you're getting shots on net. Maybe you're putting up the points again, or there's a connection. It's like, oh, okay, because coaches don't know all the time, right? They see what they see, and it takes time to build an identity. Or you think that, a lot of times we'll see someone that's, like let's take your team. You got a lot of guys that are 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". Like you got a big team, and so you think that, okay, this guy's going to be tough and rough, and well, what if they're not? So now you're mad at this kid because he's not that type of a guy, but like maybe he's such a skilled guy that he doesn't need to be, but we expect by appearance you're supposed to be that. So there's, we could bullshit ourselves as coaches too, and be disappointed in asking for something that a kid's not. But anyways, do what you do it well. If you need to add something to it, and opportunities do come. And then there might be a connection immediately, and it's like, oh, he is a 40 goal scorer.
Yeah, but you literally just said the next thing I was going to go into is how you want to be able to play your role, right? And within whatever the group is that you have, but you don't want to be stuck. You still want to be able to, extend yourself out to have other attributes, because I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I'm trying to get at with what we're talking about is you want to be able to plug the hole that needs to be plugged wherever you are. So if you go up to play junior or whatever, and you're going to start as a bottom six forward, well, what does a bottom six forward need to do? Right? It's chip pucks out. It's finish your hits. It's maybe you're a PK guy, right? It's making sure you're responsible and positionally sound and all of those things. Like that's where your focus is.
And you're still trying to score goals.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's don't forget that there's going to be certain expectations based on where you are right now. But if an opportunity comes, you want to show that you can still do that. And then so like an example I remember for myself when I played junior is I started off, I was bottom six in my first year, but my coach would always put me as the first guy to shoot in a penalty shot in a shootout. Yeah. I was always the first guy to shoot. And I remember because when he coached me the year before, I scored like high percentage of the time in the shootout. When I got to junior, he put me in that position. I was playing bottom six now, and I wasn't scoring in the shootout. I was doing my same move all the time, and I wasn't scoring. But he kept putting me. He would keep going. He didn't lose the faith, right? He kept putting me there and kept giving me an opportunity. So in the back of my mind, I didn't think this at the time, but now when I'm reflecting back on it, it's like, okay, so I'm for sure was poopy pants about being a bottom six, but here my coach is showing me here's something, right? There's something here. And so if you get those little cookies here and there, take that as a signal of okay, you're doing something right, and keep plugging away at that thing. An example for me over the weekend, I had one of my guys that he asked me a few weeks ago about on being on the PK, and he's like, how come I don't get the PK stuff? I'm like, you're always going to get a chance to do the PK in games that aren't quite as important. But if you want to get PK in the games that are important, then I need to trust you. That's all it's about. That is literally 100% what it is. If I can trust that I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get the puck out, I'm pretty sure you're going to run the right route, I'm pretty sure you know what the system is that we're doing, then I'll put you out there. And he hadn't been doing it. After we had that talk, just on the weekend, he went out for one of the PK situations, and off the face-off, he like perfectly executed being that winger that comes up to push out on the face-off, and it was like perfect. Did it, got a turnover, got the puck down. So now in my mind, I'm like, okay, there was your shot, like you had an opportunity, you nailed it. Now you get another one. So like next game, he's now has worked up. Not just from that alone, but that's just the most clear example in my mind. He's now worked up to be somebody that I want to give that next chance to. So now I think of him as being in the rotation with my PK guys.
Yeah, so he's basically when you look at that situation, this is for the kids or parents that listen to it. When a coach is making decisions, it's not just about give them a chance. It's what through the eyes of a parent. You trust them now because you gave them an assignment, and a lot of people say, "Why don't you just put me on the power play? Why don't you just do this?" Or the parents say that, why don't you give the kid a chance? Well, we can give them a chance, but are they actually paying attention? And that's what you would see as a coach. So when you go out there and the kid executes, like who cares about a face-off? Would be 6,000 people watching a junior game goes like face-off. They won it, and what happened? No, there's most of the times there's a very clear-cut plan on what you want to do. You saw a kid that had his opportunity that said, oh, you recognize, he said, oh, okay. This face-off draw. This is what we want to do, and he executed it properly. So you said that in your mind, you go, okay, he listened, he cares, he executed, he gave us a chance to kill this off or win. Yeah. So it means a lot, right? To take the information and execute it. Yeah. So that's huge, man. Because you don't want him on the penalty kill and just to say, oh, I penalty killed now, mom, dad, yeah. Right? Because the parents probably won't know what the routes are and what you're supposed to do. Your stick wasn't in the middle. You're not in the shot lanes, whatever, right? You're not pushing down, whatever.
Yeah, but I think a good point on that for the parents to remember too is like you can get, I mean, you would be able to speak this more than me because I don't have kids, but like you get caught up watching your kid, man. And like for me, like I had a talk with another one of my players the other day, and he was kind of asking similar questions about just like how can I, get in more opportunities and stuff like that. I just said like, it's not even necessarily that you're doing anything wrong, right? It's just like you're not necessarily executing at quite as high a level as some of the other guys. So it's not just you. Like I'm not just watching you, right? So if you don't get an opportunity, it's not that you're playing bad necessarily or that you're not doing things I'm asking necessarily, although it could be that. But there's also 19 other players on the team that just like you are trying to get more
Same
and
question.
Do more and right. So
same question.
So as much as you can think, yeah, my coach, maybe like on this team, I'm not really fitting into this spot that I expected to be in. There's like a variety of reasons why that could be. And it's not all about you, and that's a really, really, really challenging thing to get away from in your own mind when you're going through it. Cause I remember being the exact same way, but this is where the parents and coaches can help. So when I have the conversation with this kid, I tell him that. I tell him exactly that. And when he does something well, I'm going to give him a chance. I mean, because again, like for us, it's development focused and I want everybody to get experiences doing whatever, but it's also like real life, it's also real life. Like when the games are tough and like, we want to win, man. Like I want to win. I want to make sure that we're on a really good team so people come and watch you guys and more of our guys move on and all that stuff. So it's not just about what you're doing. It's where you fit in this team and the factors that are around that with the other players and you being able to figure that out. And so I've kind of finished this kid kind of wrapping up this point. You keep doing the things that are right. You keep following what you're supposed to be doing and the opportunity is going to come. It's just a matter of time. Whether it's because you earned it or somebody else gets hurt or somebody else plays themselves out of the spot or whatever. So like you need to be ready.
But there's also the side that maybe there won't be the opportunity. That's right. Very realistic
for sure.
This is what that's why because I like sometimes we talk and
that's a good point.
All things being equal, if you work real hard, you do a job and you perform under those circumstances, you should get rewarded, right? But what if you don't? Like it's like when you go talk to a coach, then they don't respond the way you want, or it's not all fluffy like we like to talk about all the time, right? Because that's a very, very much a reality.
Yeah,
It's like,
great
yeah,
point.
just shut up, kid.
Yeah, great point.
Right. So this is where you have to figure out, do you want to be a hockey player or not? So, I've seen so many kids do the hard work, and it's like, when's it my turn? Dude, might never be your turn. It just might never be your turn. Do you love hockey? Do you want to try this? So that's what I said in the last podcast. Some people are built for hockey, some people aren't. And if it's because you think everything's going to be fair, nah, no. Like in youth hockey, I'm less hard about that, but it's like at the same time, it's like, oh, fight for it, and be a better teammate.
Yeah,
Hopefully you'll get what you asked for. Hopefully.
That's a like huge point too, because like we haven't like explicitly said it like that, but that is exactly right. Like sometimes you just won't get it. Like it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how much you think you earned it or deserve it, or how how right all the things are that you do. Sometimes you just might not get it, and it is what it is, and for whatever reason. So then what do you do? And I think that's the thing, right? Like you don't want to. You can figure out how to accept where you're at without just like resenting where you're at. And like I remember this clicking for me. It wasn't until I would probably say my second year university, which is too late, where I finally
Like
realized,
for hockey?
Yeah, like when I was playing in my second year, I was like, I actually didn't care about scoring. I actually didn't care.
Yeah, you told me this several times.
Like I didn't care anymore. It didn't matter. I was like, I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna try to work my bag off. I'm gonna try to do what they say, and I'm gonna get what I'm gonna get. And like I accepted that. Now you could make the argument of, well, you accepted it. Like, look what happened. You accepted where you're at, and then and it's like there's a difference between accepting it, like being a quitter,
caving into it,
and being a suck ass. Right.
Okay, I'll go on the third line.
Right. It was accepting it with a good attitude. It was accepting it with okay, if I just need to be a guy that like bumps and grinds and figure out with whatever I get how to be somewhat useful, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do that.
Successful at what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that. And like I didn't keep playing long enough after that to see how that attitude would have played out for me, because around that time was when I was starting to think about not playing anymore.
Yeah,
anyways,
you were becoming a professional in a different way.
And that's what gave me the freedom, though. Like that's the unfortunate part. Like that's what it took for me to get out of my own way and how I was playing. Like I remember this. This is one of my biggest regrets playing. Like you'll find this funny. When I was in junior, I was in my last year, and this was after all of my like scholarship stuff had like fallen through. So I was not in a good mental place, and I wanted to do anything I could to get that attention back, because I had it. It was there, and I lost it. And I remember going through one of my last games. We were playing in Kitchener at the Odd, and a kid, he was a 16-year-old kid. I think he ended up playing he played in the OHL after that, and I think he played on a national team or something like that. But anyways, he after a whistle, he grabbed me and he dropped his gloves and started like throwing punches. And in my head, I didn't want to drop the gloves to fight him, because I didn't want to be suspended for the next game, because it was like the end of the third period, and I would have missed the next game.
This is in midget?
No, this is my last year of junior.
Okay, junior.
I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember that happening, and that was one of the biggest regrets I had playing, because it was just like a symbol of where I was at. I was so in my own head about trying to get my points and trying to make sure I was in the game and all of that stuff, that I didn't just beat the piss out of this 16-year-old kid that thought he was going to grab me and throw a punch, And like, so 2 years later, when I'm playing at the university, when I finally had that mindset, I remember like reflecting back on that moment exactly. And I'm like, if I had this mindset then, I would have just dropped my gloves and beat the piss out of the guy, because that was the thing to do in that situation. But instead, it was a worse look, because in my mind, I wanted to focus on, getting my points and whatever, which didn't even happen anyways. So I got in my own way mentally. And so having that mindset, which again, I got too late, because by the time I had that, it was in university, but it was so freeing. I could just go play. I didn't care like who was watching. I didn't care who was around. I was just going and playing. And like, it was a nice way to finish out playing with that freedom, instead of finishing with like my own pressure that I put on myself to play, which didn't even work anyways. So it's like trying to help kids to find that space in their own head where they can just be free to play and figure out where they're at. I think is like hugely valuable if you can figure it out. But I'm not saying it's easy to do. by any means, because
definitely not.
it's such a mental game, man. Like it is such a mental game to go through this at the higher
Well, I'm
levels.
sure. Like I just go back to like I don't know if I'm going all over here, but I go back to like the team that I watched the most, the Guelph Storm, right? I look at Luchenko, right? So he's back from Philadelphia, and like every interview, right? So do you think he doesn't want to play in the NHL, right? And he's a young guy. He's and people almost like criticize him for not making it. It's almost a bust now. It's like God. He's like not even close to that. He's a great hockey player that's got to just get better to play to hone on his skills. So, everything's about like last year. Like I'll go back to last year. He comes back from Philadelphia at 18 years old, and people are going, "Wow, like should be in the NHL." It's like no. And then he comes back to junior, and he was away. He was in Philadelphia and people talking about him like he was in the second coming of Christ for a month and a half, right? And he's expecting him to make the team, and then he gets back to junior. So now he's away, coming back to this thing. He's thinking that a little bit. Like I don't know what's going through in his head, but you think he's away from home. He probably wanted to come back to Guelph, like truly, to be with his buddies and finish it out, knowing that hanging out here is just a matter of time, right? So it's like that. When am I coming home? When am I going home? Right? They come back, and then you got the pressure of being a first round pick, who's that everyone's been talking about. There's like Potsy did that with Boston, and now if you don't get 3 points a game, are you shit?
Yeah, right.
You played in the NHL, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
So people don't understand. There's a lot of pressure, and it's not free hockey anymore. Like you said, you're not playing free. You're probably thinking with the back of your head, I got to do this, this, and this. My kid is now thinking, I got to play to get signed. So are you playing to get signed? Is it helping your game or hurting your game? I don't know. But there's a lot of things that go into it, right? So it's like, go play.
Yeah.
Go play.
So my last, I guess, piece with all that kind of being said is if you want to get more opportunity with whatever the team is that you're on, would you agree it's just basically about your coach being able to trust what you're doing? More or less comes down to that. So if you want to earn trust, then find an area of the game where it can be earned. And most coaches that know things are going to say the same things. It's, are you getting pucks out on the wall? Are you making sure you're not turning pucks over? Are you doing the PK routes properly? Are you running this 5-on-5 thing properly? Do you know your assignments off of face-off? It's all stuff that has nothing to do with skating, shooting, passing, or stick handling. It has nothing to do with your skills as an individual. It has to do with your execution in certain situations. That's what it ends up being about. So for me, if you want to earn trust from me, like take the power play, for example. If you want to be on the power play, things that I'm going to look for is make sure you're getting pucks in deep enough where the play doesn't die. That's number one, outside of executing the breakout. And then you can't force plays. That's basically what I look for. My team, I have so many skilled players. The difference between who I'm going to put and who I'm not going to put is if a guy is forcing a play that's creating turnovers versus a guy is patient enough to make the right move. That's what the difference will be on my team, because all of them are really skilled. So it has nothing to do with their skill. It has to do with their decision making. So if you want to get more trust from a coach, I would probably say that's pretty common what I just said among most coaches, then you want to make sure that you're trying to do those things. Now, what I'll say to the parents about this is you might not know what the expectations are from the coach. So for me, I try to be as clear as I can, giving very detailed, specific expectations in certain situations without being overly restrictive. If your kid comes home and you're telling them to do something different, that might go counter to what I'm saying. And then in the game, when you think you're giving them good advice on things they should do, it might not be what I want, right? So just be aware of that as like an aside for the parents. For me, I have very, very specific expectations in certain situations. So if you think you're going to try to help your kid, that's fine. But keep in mind that if you don't know what I'm trying to run or how I'm trying to do things or what decisions I expect in certain situations, then you might actually be hurting the kid's ability to get more opportunity. So that's just kind of like a side note for the parents on that. But at the end of the day, if you want to get something that like a little bit more, then find an area of the game where you can be very good at something along those lines, like I just outlined, where you can get more trust, where I can trust that you're doing the things that need to be done. And I'm kind of saying that on behalf of coaches and not just me, because what I say is probably very common. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking. Would you agree with that? I don't know if I'm leaving anything out.
No, you're not. Like the only thing I would say about that is like we got Nikita on your team. came from Russia. He's on our team, and like we saw a video, and his agent was asking to come over, right? And you guys showed me a video. That looks like he can play. Like it looks like he's skilled, and what I saw in the video was like really good skating, but it was video, right? And who knows what the level is? But I was looking at the plays. I'm like, those are some good plays, unselfish. So he comes on the ice here, jumps on, and we all went, "Oh, this guy's good." So if you're looking at how come I'm not the first line center, it's just like because he is, because he is. Like, what do you want? You want me to tell you want him off the ice? Like, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So that's what like it always comes down to. It's like there's players that are just that much better.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and maybe I'll close on that. Like, that's the thing to always keep in mind is we come back to that as kind of a frequent theme. If you think you're going to be, X role on your team, that means that you have to beat out somebody who's in that role, right? So if you go up to the OHL and you make whatever team or college or whatever, and you're like, well, yeah, I'm a centerman, and like I'm a top six, I'm a top six centerman. It's like, well, yeah, but we have 2 top 6 centermen. Are you better than them? Like, should I play you instead of them? And like, that's a hard conversation. Like, that's a hard reality to try to face as a player, but it's the truth. So if you're not going to be a guy that takes that spot, then what else are you? What else are you? How else can you fit and still contribute, get good ice time, and feel good about your game?
And that's right to a T. Jet Luchenko is a first line center, but he wasn't always a first line center. He was a fourth line center his first year because that's the way it should have been, and he earned, because of his skill set, earned power play because he has the brain for that. The transporting of the puck and distributing the puck, he has that brain. Did he get first power play every time? No, but he got some reps on the power play his first year. His second year, he would have been second line center, maybe even third line center, but Potsy went up to the NHL and he was not gifted. I'm not saying that like that, but someone had to take it over, and he had like the skill set, and he was on the ice all the time, and deservedly so. Had a great year, went 13th overall in the NHL. My son was a fourth line player his first year, deservedly so. He was a young guy, and he wasn't a sniper, and he's still not a sniper. He could put pucks in the net, but it's not sniping. It's the hard work kind, right? But he worked his way up, and there was a earn, and then when you're there, you're there. There's other guys that they start off on the fourth line, or might even start off on the third line, but they haven't found, and maybe some of it was given too early, and they didn't understand that, no, if I don't get this puck out every single time, I will not get another shift. That's how Charlie's first year was, right? If I don't finish that hit, I don't get to play. Where other guys maybe, and I'm not saying at first it looks like, oh, I get to play, but did it hurt or help? So like, I think it's so valuable to earn everything and to actually understand how important those little details are, and have that as the foundation of your game. Because at some point, even if you're like one of the better people in the league, we've seen so many people that are drafted in the first round of the NHL draft that don't play, and the foundation has to be so good and solid.
Do you think it comes down to like on the individual level? Like if you think about if it was like Charlie or someone like that, where it's like we not spoon fed by any means, and they had to chip their way up. Do you think it comes down to attitude and like how they handle it, or do you think there's other factors that contribute to whether or not players are able to manage that and build their way up or not? Because to me, when I think about it with my guys, it's like that's something I'm looking for all the time. It's like I'm looking for the attitude. Like I really do believe, like for me as a coach, which is not the norm, I try best I can to make sure that kids are not getting poopy pants. Like if I'm on the bench and I know like I've missed a guy a couple times for whatever reason, I try to make sure I give him a pat and just be like, stay in the game. Like I'm gonna get you back. Like whatever. You're not gonna get that courtesy, man. Like that's not a thing normally.
But here's the thing: you can see this with some kids. Like there's a way to respond and there's a way not to respond. And the way to respond, if you're not getting necessary reward, is not to pout and not to complain and not to bitch. What can I do? And being angry is a good weapon. And if you want to do something and it means you sit there and you're stewing on the bench because you missed a shift or two, or you didn't get the power, and those things are in your head. If you went out and ran someone, that's a sign, coach, I'm here, right? If you went out and did something, I'm not saying ridiculous, but like if you went out there and had 3 hits in a period just to say, is that good enough, coach? That's a good response. You know what I mean? Put your head between your legs, your tail between your legs, and pouting and can we talk? That's not always the best response. Do something about it. So I think those guys that learn that early, that okay, I'm going to respond with this, and like, oh, then they realize, oh, if I do this all the time, there's 3 hits that shift, and I, whatever, did this, and this 2 shifts in a row, and they put me out again. Oh, the light bulb clicks. Oh, I have to do this to get that. Do that over a period of time, and then you evolve. Darren McCarty said it best. I don't know if you ever heard him talk. So I know Darren McCarty. No, I don't know him. I did some stuff with him, and he's the nicest guy in the world. Like the nicest guy in the world.
Mohawk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's crazy, right?
Yeah,
he's great.
yeah.
He's great. But I met him through Chris Draper. I was on the ice with him a little bit, and then Chris. This was like years ago. Chris asked for if you wanted to go to a Wings game, and Charlie was so they got to watch LA. He saw me after the game and saw Charlie, and I was like almost like I liked him a lot, but I like if he was in a bad place, I just, hey buddy, how are you? But he came over and he was so nice to my wife, so nice to Charlie, like as a little guy. He was like so nice, like his heart's like this, like it's just huge, great. Anyways, he talked about when he was play junior. He said he had to do something. His coach told him because he was a goal scorer, right? Yeah, goal scorer. He said if you want to play do you want to play in the NHL? He said more than anything in the world. Are you serious? Yep. He goes, okay, you're gonna have to do one thing better than 99% of the people in the world, and that's gonna be being very physical and fighting. So he said every time he got in the league, every time he got to a new level, he would just go there, hit, fight, and then what it did, it created room. So a lot of people listening to this, some people listening to this will say, well, I don't want my kid fighting, I don't want my kid hitting. Fine, don't then. Right? But that's how he got there. And and that's my point, is there's something that you have to do to separate yourself from someone else to be noticed. And if you go out and you throw hits all over the place without being a total idiot, what happens is, and I don't care who you are, how big or how small, you will have more room because you wear people out. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's your only answer, but something out there to stand out. Respond the right way.
Yeah. Well, I was saying you before or after we did the last episode that it's nice getting back into it because things are so fresh now. There's so much stuff happening like on the daily that it'll be fun to keep talking about things kind of as they come up. But hopefully that was useful. Maybe a little all over the map, but I think it was somewhat helpful. So I'll leave it there unless you got anything else.
Nope. Good.
Okay. See you guys next week.